We'll get into it. All ABR, always be recording. That is how we get the best content, usually. Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm chilling. Anyways, hello and welcome. Welcome back to Is It Better Than Paddington 2, the movie review show where myself and a guest come together to discuss whatever film, or in this case, films, I have chosen and ask the ever-important question, is it better than Paddington 2? I am your host, as always, Ben Selsor, and I am joined yet again today by...
Blake Selsor, the brother from the Barbenheimer episode, the best episode.
He has at last returned to...
Yes, I am back from the dead. They used the cult's rituals to bring me back from the dead.
Yeah. It's not directly obvious to like viewers and listeners, but actually whenever we're not on screen or on mic, we are dead. But we used magic to...
Maybe not physically dead, but emotionally dead.
Yeah, we used magic to bring Blake back to life for this episode. So, as I'm sure all of you listeners know at this point, we are in the final season of Is It Better Than Paddington 2? So we are looking at some of my favorite movies, and today on this episode, we're going to be looking at... Do you mind?
Jerry, we're recording a podcast.
Our father, Jerry, is also in the studio getting a behind-the-scenes look of the show. But today, we are going to be looking at two of my favorite movies of all time, one of which is my favorite movie of all time, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2 from 2020 and 2022, respectively. I'm going to tell a bit of a story here about why this is my favorite movie, and then we'll dive right into talking about it. So, we've both been Sonic fans for quite a long time.
The big difference is Ben is more of the video game Sonic fan, whereas I've experienced Sonic through like other media, like the television cartoons, comic books, like other attractions. I also like just other fan created work, like the Snapcube fan dubs, for example.
Go watch those. Those are better than the Sonic movie. But so I've been a fan of Sonic for quite a long time. I've just always thought he was a really cool character. He's just like a cool guy that goes fast, and going fast is my favorite superpower.
That's why he likes the Flash from DC Comics.
Yeah. So whenever it was announced that the Sonic live-action movie was being made, I think was in like 2017, 2018.
Around that time frame.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, cool. I like Sonic. That I'll probably enjoy that. And then they revealed those first two posters, but we didn't see Sonic's full design yet. We just saw like a silhouette and his legs, and he looked a little strange.
Those legs look like I could have those legs.
Yeah, to quote Brian David Gilbert. But he is, in these two posters, very human-like proportions in his body, which was bizarre, but we hadn't gotten a full look yet, so I was optimistic still. And then in
2019.
In early 2019, sometime between January and March, I can't quite remember, they finally released the trailer for the movie. And I'll flash a picture of him up on screen now as well. He was horrifying. It was just this weird, like, fur-covered monster with tiny eyes and like human-like teeth. He didn't have like the classic like gloves on. He just had white hands. He had very like, and like below the neck with his body, he had very like human-like proportions, like weird muscular arms and legs and everything.
And I also think his face like changed designs like every few scenes too. Like
something like that. His face did look different in a lot of shots. Like his eyes were constantly looking different sizes or whatever. So obviously, that was a bad move.
And it was going to come out around the same time the Cats movie was coming out, which is a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, it was originally supposed to release in November of 2019. So this trailer dropped, and I thought, wow, this looks awful. I'm going to pretend like it's the greatest movie of all time, because that's the sense of humor that I have. And so I started like counting down the days until the movie released. So I would go into classes or like go up to my friends. I was in high school at the time. I was a junior in high school whenever the trailer released, and I would be a senior whenever the movie released. So I was going around like in classes and like to my groups of friends and being like, hey, there's this many days left until Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'm sure that I got annoying, but I didn't care. The point was to be a nuisance. So then in March of 2019, they announced, Paramount announced that they were going to be delaying the movie a few months in order to work on the appearance of Sonic a little bit and make it look better. And the release date that they delayed it to just so happened to be February 14th of 2020, which just so happened to be my 18th birthday. And so I was like, oh, this is fate now. I have to double down on the bit. I have to triple down even. And so I did. And I got even more annoying than I was before. I was posting about it all over like Instagram and Snapchat. I was constantly saying it like in every single class I went to almost. It got to the point where people would ask me how many days were left and I could just say it without hesitation. And so it sort of became less annoying and more of just like a funny thing that was going on, like that Ben was doing for some reason. I was just really committed to the bit. And then in like September, I think, of 2019, like fall of 2019-ish, they released the new trailer with the new design, and he looked so good. He was exactly what he should have been. He was just a little blue hedgehog guy. He had correct proportions. He didn't look off or weird. His eyes were the right size. His teeth were toned down a lot.
They gave him gloves?
They gave him the gloves. They gave him the classic shoes instead of like the weird red sneakers they gave him before. And it looked great. And then like, so I thought like, oh, this might actually be good. And so I kept doing my thing, kept doing my bit. It was February then. February rolled around. I had a nice group of friends that all, like each of them individually, could have gone out for Valentine's Day. Like they were all seeing somebody at the time and they all could have gone out on dates. But instead of doing that, they all came with me to see Sonic the Hedgehog in theaters. And it was a great day. Like it was a snow day that day, so school got canceled. So I was like at home. I was just like playing Sonic games, having a good day, having a fun time. And then me and my friends all went to the local movie theater and saw Sonic, and it was great. It was everything I wanted it to be and more.
It was probably the first and last movie we saw in 2020 before the dark times.
It was the last movie that I saw before the pandemic hit, and I remember towards the end of 2020, I made an Instagram post that said I would like to issue an apology. Apparently, whenever I said that 2020 was going to peak with the release of Sonic the Hedgehog, the universe took me up on that offer. So I did cause the COVID-19 pandemic.
How could you?
With my insurmountable love for Sonic. But yeah, that's basically, long story short, that's why Sonic the Hedgehog is my favorite movie of all time. Not because it's good. It's not. As we will discuss here in a moment, but because it's just a very special movie to me. It was just it came at like just the right time in my life, and I have a lot of good memories attached to it. But with that, let's dive right in and talk about Sonic. So we saw this at different times. I think you saw it after release, like a while after.
I think I'd probably sometime after you.
So what were your initial thoughts of Sonic the Hedgehog?
I liked it. Like it was a fine movie. It was like obviously I would have preferred something a little bit more closer to the actual video games lore and setting and stuff. But then again, like it was a fine movie. Like it. I mean, if I had to choose between like something that was somewhat close to the games but not quite versus nothing like the games at all, I probably would have chose the former.
Yeah. You know, it's not super similar to the games at all. It borrows a lot of elements, of course. The main town that the movie takes place in is a small town in Montana called Green Hill.
And before
obviously
that, he's
named
in Green Hill Zone, like in the flashback at the
Yeah.
beginning of the movie.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Like the small town is called Green Hill, which is obviously taken from the first level of the first game. There's
Well, you have
Sonic has like his rings, which he can throw and turn into portals, which is like the giant rings you could find at the end of the levels and jump into a special zone with.
Mushroom Hill Zone has a small...
Mushroom Hill makes an appearance. It's more prominent in the second movie, which we will get to as well. But yeah, it doesn't adapt like any of the games at all, or even any of the concepts really of the games besides Sonic himself. But it is like very, it's made with a lot of love and care towards those games, which as somebody who has been a fan of those games and has played a lot of them myself, that's something that I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah, I actually wanted to bring up that Sonic's new design was designed by Tyson Heese, who worked on Sonic Mania.
Yeah, the new design of Sonic, Tyson Heese or Tyson Hesse, I'm not entirely sure. But before he ever did any work for Sega, he had this dumb little webcomic called Sonic's Big Fat Adventure that was just like a parody comic of Sonic that was ridiculous and like kind of making fun of the series. And then he went on to design Sonic for the movie. So make fun of your heroes, kids. It will work out in the end.
That's
at
why
least if your hero is Sega.
That's why he makes fun of Ezra Miller's The Flash movie. That way he can make a better Flash movie.
I'm hoping. I'm praying. We will not talk about The Flash on this show because it's not worth an episode. It's worse than Paddington 2.
Yeah, 0.
End of discussion.
Negative 64 out of 10.
Yeah. So the movie opens on this alien planet that is designed to resemble Green Hill Zone from the Sonic series, where we see a young child Sonic who is just adorable. He's running around on the island. He's having a grand old time, and he goes and meets with his like adoptive mother, Longclaw, who is not in any of the games or any of the comics
or any of the cartoons
or any form of Sonic media. Longclaw was created for this movie, and so they're talking. Sonic brought her a flower, and then a tribe of Echidna warriors attacks, which are from the games. But we'll get to those later. They're more important for the second movie. But they come and attack because they want to steal Sonic's power, whatever that means. They never really explain what the Echidnas would do with Sonic's power. Like,
probably make a generator.
Right, but they're still using like bows and spears and stuff, so I don't know what benefit.
It'd be like a hamster wheel kind of thing.
Maybe they just want to put him. Maybe they just want to take Sonic and lock him on a hamster wheel and have him like.
That's how they generate
power their city or
electricity. This is
something.
the Industrial Revolution for echidnas.
Something like that. So Longclaw and Sonic escape. Longclaw gives Sonic his bag of portal rings. She throws one out and says, like, this will lead you somewhere safe where you can hide. Stay hidden. Don't cause any trouble. Everything's going to be fine.
And then she dies.
Yeah, and then she presumably dies. It's never explicitly made clear whether or not she is dead, but probably. So Sonic runs through the portal, and it closes, and we don't know what happens to Longclaw. At this point in the theater, my friend Nicholas, who was there watching the movie with me, leaned over and asked, was any of that canon? I thought for a second, and I said, no. Because there is like some semblance of a Sonic canon, and none of the movie is at all similar to the actual story of the games. But Sonic goes, and he's on Earth now.
And he meets all sorts of colorful characters, such as James Marsden as the local sheriff.
Yeah, so it's 10 years later. Sonic's a teenager now. He's living in a cavern in like the woods of Green Hills, Montana. But he's doing his best. He's staying hidden. But above everything else, he really wants to make friends. He's very lonely. And so he idolizes Tom Wachowski, who is the local like sheriff of the town, who he calls Donut Lord. Because he's a cop, so he's always eating donuts.
Always talking to donuts too.
He's basically spying on this family and like sort of inserting him, like pretending to be a part of their lives himself, which is very weird. It's very weird, but also very
Pretty
sad.
creepy.
It's very sad though, because he just wants to like be a part of a family and have friends and stuff, and he doesn't know that Tom and his wife Maddie are planning to move to San Francisco soon, because he got a job to be a cop in San Francisco. And this is one of my least favorite parts of the movie, actually, because it's clear they had to insert some
Drama.
some product placement, probably to cover the loss of money they made by having to redesign Sonic. And so Maddie has a laptop open on like the table, and Tom asks her what she's looking at, and she just goes, "Apartments for rent I found on Zillow," and the camera holds on the Zillow homepage for like a good 3 seconds straight, so you see what it looks like.
Yeah,
which I guess it's an effective advertisement because I still remember it. Maybe that's because I've seen the movie 60 times though.
The whole Olive Garden thing that happened.
Yeah, there's the Olive Garden is brought up several times in this movie and I think in the next one.
And the weird thing is, for all the product placements, there's not a product placement for Sonic, the restaurant.
No, of course not.
Which would have made absolute sense.
Right.
But they don't do that.
Just as well, though, because Sonic, the restaurant, is kind of bad. But so one night, Sonic is like super depressed over his loneliness. He has played an entire baseball game by himself, running back and forth to be in the different field positions. And then like he's just like, I'm all alone. He starts running in circles really fast and sets off a huge electromagnetic pulse that causes a power outage across the entire Pacific Northwest.
This leads to one of my funny jokes. Like, I'm sure no one saw that. And then you cut to, like, at the police station, all the phones are going off, and the guy who's there just like...
Yeah, Wade, the deputy,
he's just
is
like
sitting there, like, staring at the phones.
Jesus.
Really funny. But we can't... I got to stop summarizing the whole film because that's going to take way too long if we have to talk about two movies. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit.
Gotta go fast.
We got to go fast. So we see a government meeting of various U.S. government officials that are trying to figure out what happened. And one of them is just like, well, we could bring in, that guy. And everybody's just like, no, that guy, he's nuts. He's crazy. But the other guy's like, well, he gets results. And who is that guy? Well, it's none other than Dr. Ivo Robotnik, played by the legendary Jim Carrey. And there is nobody better that they could have gotten to play this character. Like, he is Robotnik. He's like rude and mean, but in like such a hilarious and endearing way.
And I like it when he does the robotic movements too. Like, that feels pretty cool.
Despite like his attitude, he is wickedly smart, but despite the fact that he is incredibly smart, he is a bumbling fool as well. And he is flanked by his assistant, Agent Stone, who is also not from the games.
But let's face it, he should be in the games because he's a fun character.
It's great to give Robotnik a sidekick. In the games, he normally has Orbot and Cubot.
And even before then, his sidekicks would fluctuate depending on the game or the cartoon or comic or whatever.
the chicken robot and the Dro robot from one of the cartoons. So Dr. Robotnik sends off his drone robots to go search for the energy signature. And so Sonic is like, I gotta escape to the mushroom planet. But They are approaching his lair. The robots in the military are approaching his little cave. And so he runs over to Tom's shed, where Tom bursts in, sees Sonic, screams, and tranks him. So,
And then he loses his rings in the portal in San Francisco.
yeah, he opens a portal to San Francisco on accident and loses his entire bag of rings, which falls on top of a skyscraper. So Sonic wakes up a little bit later, and who shows up at the door of the house? None other than Robotnik himself, who has some of the funniest lines ever. There was one in particular that had me and my friends howling in the theater, where Robotnik's basically just trying to get under Tom's skin and just be like, at first he's trying to trick him, but then he's just like, okay, I'm better than you. I'm smarter than you. And he makes a comment about Tom being bottle fed with formula, to which Tom replies, I was breastfed, actually. To which Robotnik replies, nice. Throw that in my orphan face. And it's like,
You know, for kids.
oh, it's hilarious. So Sonic Sonic is trying to hide in the house as Robotnik is searching it. And at first he's about to leave, but then he finds one of Sonic's quills that he dropped earlier and Tom picked up. And so Robotnik brings in his drones. They're about to he's about to do some evil. He's about to, as he puts it, nobody will ever know you existed to Tom. So he's about to just erase Tom from existence, basically. But then Sonic shows up and saves the day, and they hop in Tom's truck and they hit the road. So Sonic can't run currently for some reason.
Because he's been tranked.
Well, he was tranked, which is why he couldn't run earlier, but now he should be able to just run to San Francisco, but he can't. The only explanation I can come up with is that he doesn't know where to go, which, fair enough. So they embark on a little road trip. So the two of them, over the course of the road trip, form a bond together. Sonic has like a bucket list of a bunch of stuff that he wants to do. And they end up like showing up at a bar one night. No, they go to a gas station, but then there's a bar across the street, like a biker bar, and Sonic wants to check that out. And so he goes there, and Tom is forced to follow him. And so they end up like ordering food at the bar, but then things go south, and Sonic ends up getting in a bar fight, which he does the X-Men Quicksilver scene where he freezes time and goes and puts all of the people in the fight in a wacky situation, and then stops moving at super speed, and everything just like all the rubber bands snap at once, essentially. But then Sonic as well here gets his taste for chili dogs. Meanwhile, Robotnik has discovered that one of Sonic's quills holds basically an infinite amount of energy by itself. And so he decides that he wants to capture Sonic to use as a source of power for his machines. And he sends like a drone tank after them. But Sonic is able to disable it, and it becomes like a little drone four-wheeler. And Sonic manages to disable it, and then it becomes a drone on one wheel. And Sonic manages to disable it. Or Tom manages to disable it, and then it becomes a little helicopter drone.
Then they take that apart, but then it's a bomb.
Yeah, Sonic takes it apart, and then it's a bomb that gets stuck to his hand, and Sonic blows up and almost dies. So they get to San Francisco.
They get to
Maddie, Tom's wife, who is visiting her sister
the worst
in San
character
Francisco.
in the movie.
No, one of the best characters in the movie. How dare you?
I don't understand why she wants Maddie to get a divorce from Tom. That's the whole thing.
She just doesn't like Tom. So Maddie is visiting her sister and her niece. Her sister does not like Tom at all. But Tom comes in, he's got Sonic wrapped in a sheet, but the golden retriever, Ozzy, knows that there's something under the sheet, and he wants to know what's under the sheet. So he's grabbing it and tugging on it, and Tom's trying to explain what's going on because his face is all over the news. He's like on a most wanted list right now. And all of a sudden, Ozzy pulls the sheet off of Sonic, and Maddie's sister faints. And so, no, wait, Maddie isn't a vet. She's just a normal human doctor. No, she is a vet. She just has human smelling salts. That's how they get Sonic to wake up. They get human smelling salts and hit him with it, and he wakes up and he moves around the room. And so while Tom and Maddie are figuring out what's going on and trying to figure out a plan, JoJo, Maddie's niece, gives Sonic his iconic red shoes because his other ones were worn down and full of holes. So he gets his red shoes, and then they go to that skyscraper to get Sonic's rings back. And while in there, they have Sonic in a duffel bag so they can sneak him in. And he's saying how he can't breathe, and it's like it smells like dirty socks in there. And a stranger asks Tom, "Do you have your child in that bag?" And he says, "No. Well, I do have a child, but it's not my child."
You know, the things you would say in a public area.
Yeah, and so they get onto the roof of the skyscraper. Sonic grabs his rings, and he's about to go, and he throws the ring, but it bounces off one of Robotnik's drones. He's here in a giant hovercraft, which is being powered by one of Sonic's quills. And this is where Sonic gives him the name Eggman, because his drones kind of look like eggs. And he fires off a bunch of missiles, and Sonic freezes time with his super speed and goes around and like deflects all of them basically. But then Robotnik presses a button and supercharges his machine, so he's able to move at Sonic speed. And at this point, Sonic gets hit with something and falls to the ground with all of his rings. So it makes a sound very similar to when you drop all your rings in game, and when Sonic goes and picks all of them back up, it makes a similar sound to whenever you collect rings in game, which I really like. And he basically is just like, "Let's dance, Eggman," and he starts running through the city of San Francisco with Robotnik tailing him, and he manages to throw out a ring to portal himself, I believe, to the Great Wall of China first.
Paris first.
Paris, and then the Great Wall of China.
Then the pyramids.
And then the pyramids of Egypt, where he creates like a sandstorm to blind Robotnik.
You're not allowed up there. It's one of the 7 wonders.
Yeah, he starts running up the pyramid and opens a portal, but gets like just barely misses getting hit with a missile and gets sent through the portal. Also, at the same time, Sonic pushes Tom and Maddie off of the skyscraper and then throws a ring to Green Hill below them so that they're safe. But he's just like, "Don't worry, guys, I got a plan," and then pushes them off the building. It's really funny.
And then Eggman's like, "I was not expecting that, but I was also expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't really count."
Yeah, exactly. Jim Carrey's perfect in this movie. So they fall into Green Hill, and Sonic is doing his chase around the world and ends up on the street in like the main street in Green Hill at night, and he's not doing so hot. And Robotnik comes through the portal, and he's just like, "That's my specimen. Like, don't touch that." And Tom, with the power of friendship, revives Sonic. He basically says, his name was Sonic, and he was my friend. And Sonic supercharges again. He finally like has control over his like sonic boom powers, essentially, the thing that he did earlier in the movie when he caused that power outage. And here we get like one of my favorite moments in the movie where he's bouncing off the buildings and hitting Robotnik's hovercraft, and just like he hits the hovercraft, hits a building, jumps off the building, hits the hovercraft, and he just does that over and over again at super speed. And then he has Tom throw a ring to the Mushroom Planet, which is where Sonic was going to exile himself in the event that he had to leave Earth. Tom throws a ring to the Mushroom Planet behind Robotnik's hovercraft, and Sonic sends him, hits the thing and sends him through the portal. And in New Year's Eve of 2020, I watched this movie, and I timed it so that the exact moment that Sonic hit Robotnik into the Mushroom Planet would be right when the new year started, which was great. That was my goodbye to 2020. And then Sonic's living happily in the town. He's living with Tom and Maddie. The government's still looking for him, but Tom ain't no snitch. Thomas staying in Green Hill, not going to be a San Francisco cop.
Crazy Carl is no longer crazy.
Crazy Carl is no longer crazy. Crazy Carl was the only guy who knew Sonic existed, but nobody believed him because he was a crazy old man. And he had an artist rendition, and it was the Sonic meme. it was a drawing of the Sonic meme, which is the funniest joke in the movie by far.
Between this and the reference to Ugandan Knuckles in the next film, I'm just gonna say it. I'm gonna predict that based off what we know about the third film, they're gonna reference Eggman pissing on the moon. That
would be funny.
I don't even think they're gonna say, "Oh no, Eggman's gonna pee on the moon." I think they're just gonna do "I've come to make an announcement," and that's gonna be it.
Maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, then the movie ends, and they're all living happily ever after, except Robotnik's on the Mushroom Planet, and he's shaved his head and grown out his mustache. So now he looks more like Eggman from the games.
And he's going to be home by Christmas.
He says, vows. Yeah, because he's still got Sonic's quill. It's still got all of its power in it. Because despite Sonic sapping the power earlier in the movie during their big final fight, the quill has near infinite power, so it's still got power in it. So with that, the movie ends, except it doesn't. There's another post-credits scene, and it's a portal opening on a cliff overlooking Green Hill. And who jumps through that portal, Blake? Tell me.
Miles Tails Prower, voiced by Colleen O'Shaughnessy from the games.
Tails the fox from the Sonic games jumps through with his two tails, and he flies over to Green Hill and he says, "I found him. I just hope it's not too late." And what does that mean? We don't know yet, because the sequel wouldn't come out for another 2 years.
And then, December of 2019, we got our first trailer for the second Sonic movie.
2020.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah, they gave us the trailer for the second Sonic movie before they even gave us the trailer for the first one. Before they even gave us the first movie.
I'm sorry.
No, so this movie made bank, and thank God it did, because I love every second of it. It is my favorite movie of all time. It is very special to me, and I'm so glad that it got a sequel. And the sequel was announced, and we didn't really know much about it for a while until actor Idris Elba posted on Instagram, just on all of his social medias, a picture of a fist with a white glove on and two spikes, confirming that Idris Elba had been cast as Knuckles the Echidna. Idris Elba, in my opinion, is one of the greatest actors ever. How'd they get him to do this? How'd they get him to be in Sonic the Hedgehog 2?
Hello, he's probably a Sonic fan. Maybe.
I hope that Idris Elba is a Sonic fan, because he's if you had told me that Idris Elba was going to get cast as Knuckles the Echidna, before it was officially confirmed, if you had told me that information, I wouldn't have believed you, because it's just that sounds like a dumb fan casting. That's really wishful thinking, because
Dwayne The Rock Johnson as Vector the Crocodile or something.
Right. And at the time, the big popular fan cast, the people that they thought were going to be cast as Knuckles were either Dwayne Johnson, which was honestly, that was the most obvious pick in my opinion, or Jason Momoa of Game of Thrones and Aquaman. But no, they went with Idris Elba, and I'm so glad they did, because in April of 2022, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 came out. And I forgot to mention an important detail of Sonic 1, because this is going to set up for an important detail of Sonic 2. After Sonic's fight with the tank on the highway on the way to San Francisco, he accidentally uses a spin dash essentially and destroys the tank, and he does a little victory dance where he flosses. He does the floss dance from Fortnite, which was not in the trailer. They animated a different dance for him in the trailer that wasn't in the movie. So they changed it last minute. It's in character. I'm not denying that. but it is also very silly.
We also should mention that Sonic's voiced by Ben Schwartz.
Sonic the Hedgehog is voiced by Ben Schwartz, and Ben Schwartz does a wonderful job.
And this is not like
doing
his first
Sonic.
rodeo in terms of voice acting either. He's
But he is like, he's doing a very unique voice, because normally his voice acting roles, he does something very similar to his own voice, but he has to get much higher pitched for Sonic. And he said that his main method of maintaining his voice while doing that was drinking a lot of tea with honey. But the second movie comes out, and it opens on the Mushroom Planet with Robotnik. He set up a whole little society for himself. He's got his rock in. He's got his little rock that kind of looks like Agent Stone's head.
to do some rock reconnaissance.
Doing some rock reconnaissance that was established in the first movie. I forgot to mention that. My bad. And so he's got a whole little like pulley system with like a whole like Rube Goldberg setup just to have a little model of Sonic get crushed by some kind of like watermelon or something, and or a rock.
Probably a rock.
It's like a Sonic made of blueberries that gets crushed into like jam, which I guess is what he's been mainly
He's
subsisting
trying to make
on.
like some kind of coffee latte tea, kind of like
Yeah, he made his own coffee machine on the Mushroom Planet, but he has been working on this satellite to basically like send out a signal to get somebody to come rescue him, or to build a machine to harness the power of the quill that he still has. And he does send out this signal, and a portal opens up, and who steps through that portal? None other than Knuckles the Echidna, voiced by Idris Elba, as I said. So while this is happening, Knuckles basically shows up, points to the quill, and is just like, "Where did you find this?"
from a little blue menace on Earth. I can show you the way.
Yeah. So Robotnik knows the way. And so him and Robotnik and Knuckles enter into a little partnership, which is great reference to Sonic the Hedgehog 3, in which they were working together in that, because Robotnik was tricking Knuckles, which is happening in this film as well. So basically, what Knuckles believes is that Sonic has
The Master Emerald.
or Sonic knows the way to find the Master Emerald.
He knows the way.
Yeah. So Sonic back on Earth is doing some vigilante justice, and he's very bad at it. He tries to stop this robbery of a truck full of like explosive material. He manages to stop the robbery, but then the truck is like careening off course, like he can't stop the truck or whatever. And
the
so
bomb, and like the bomb started activating. Like
yeah, and so
this-
he ends up dismantling the entire vehicle to get it to stop before it hits an ice cream truck, I believe.
You got the
And then-
security guard that's like, "You're the worst hero ever." And he's
yeah, and then all of these like bombs like go into the sewer and like blow the manhole covers off the street, and Sonic is just like, "All right, my work here is done," and he leaves.
like, you have been blessed by the presence of blue justice.
Yeah. And so Tom basically tells him, like, "Look, man, your moment will come. You just got to chill. You got to relax. You can't force it." And then him and Maddie are going to Maddie's sister, Rachel, that's her name, Rachel's wedding in Hawaii. And so Sonic is left at home with the dog. And he basically is just like throwing a party, watching movies, having a good time. Then there's a knock at the door. And who is it but Robotnik, who
Dun, dun,
knocked at the door
dun.
and then proceeded to literally blow it off its hinges.
At least he's polite.
So Sonic is about to do battle until he is punched through the wall by Knuckles. They fight for a little bit, and then it's revealed that like Knuckles has his own kind of like strength powers, like the way that Sonic has speed, Knuckles has strength. And so Sonic goes to launch himself at him in his little curled up attack, but Knuckles just like stops him with his hand, which is really cool. And then he slams him into the ground, and he's about to like basically like threaten Sonic's life or kill him or whatever. When all of a sudden a cop car rolls up and runs Knuckles over. Just plows straight into him. And who's driving that car but Tails? So Sonic gets in the car and they start going. They're being followed by Knuckles, who is very quick, but they manage to. They end up driving the cop car off a cliff, and Tails, using his two tails, hoists Sonic up, and they fly away. And so Robotnik gets in contact with Agent Stone, gets him to drop a giant egg armory thing at his location. Some of these robots look like the
B-bot,
the
Buzz Bombers.
Yeah, the Buzz Bombers from Sonic. They're like the little wasp robots. And Robotnik essentially tells Knuckles, "I'm going to help you. You infinite power, you say," because that's what Knuckles was looking for. He said something about infinite power with the Master Emerald, and so Robotnik wants to know more, and so he manages to get Knuckles to trust him, because Knuckles is not very smart, with the lie that Robotnik is going to help Knuckles find the Master Emerald to keep it safe.
Real quick tangent. I like how Knuckles is kind of like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy in this movie.
Yeah.
It's not like he's not stupid, but at the same time, he just doesn't understand Earth culture or whatever.
But he is also very stupid.
Right.
So
metaphors go over his head. It wouldn't happen. I would catch it.
At this point, Robotnik says the line to Knuckles, "Earth is my turf, G. If you don't know how to floss, you'll be lost without me." And Robotnik flosses. This is why I had to mention Sonic flossing earlier, because they made Robotnik floss in this movie, and it's even sillier and stupider, and I love it. 5 stars. Anyway, so Sonic is rescued by Tails, and Tails also wants to find the Master Emerald to keep it safe. And so mainly to keep it safe and to keep it out of Robotnik's hands. And so they go to Siberia, to this cave on a map that Sonic has, that has Longclaw's ghost in it or something.
Like Sonic, some kind of, you must go to the Dagobah system.
Yeah, she Obi-Wan Kenobi's him. It's unclear if this was like a pre-recorded message or something, or if it is literally her ghost. They never established that. It's never explained. And so they go to Siberia, and they get into a dance battle at a Siberian bar set to Uptown Funk, because this movie was apparently made in 2015.
And apparently Sonic doesn't have any good music, even though it totally does.
Uptown Funk was like no longer a popular song when the first movie came out. So I don't know what drove this decision, but it wasn't a good one.
Money.
But it couldn't have been, because there's no way. But anyway, they go to this cave in Siberia that has a little compass that will lead them to the Master Emerald. But Robotnik and Knuckles show up. Knuckles and Sonic get into a little snowboarding fight / race. And Sonic is in a bit of a situation here, because there is an avalanche now. And so Sonic calls Tom. He somehow has reception in Siberia. He FaceTimes Tom and is just like, "Here's the situation. I need help now." But the wedding is going on at this time. So Tom has one of the power rings so that him and Maddie could get home, but now he's going to use it to save Sonic. And so he goes and throws the ring, and it doesn't work, because it's not the ring, it's the wedding ring. So the ring that they have up at the altar for the wedding is the ring that he needs. And so Tom has to be the jerk and go and steal the ring.
And rather than just politely explaining the situation, he just punches the groom in the face.
Well, I feel like there's not a polite way to explain this situation without anybody calling you crazy.
I was playing a joke with my niece, and the ring I had, I got mixed up. I'm sorry, that's not your wedding ring. That is my ring.
Right. But anyway, Tom takes the ring and throws it. Sonic and Tails come through. The avalanche also comes through. And it's revealed that Rachel's fiance was actually working for the government the whole time, for a new organization called Gun.
From the games.
Introduced, I believe, in Sonic Adventure 1 or 2.
2.
Anyway, so Tails ain't doing so hot. Gun arrests Sonic, Tails, and Tom. And then they are saved by Maddie and Rachel, who acquired Tails' backpack full of gadgets and used it to distract and possibly kill the government agents. One of them reversed gravity on one of the agents, and he just goes up into the sky.
We don't know if he falls back down.
We don't know if he falls back down, but
Or
if he
it's
does,
like
it is... Yeah, he is either floating out into the vacuum of space and dying there, or he is being dropped from a very lethal height. Either way, they did kill a man. At this point, also, I believe Robotnik and Knuckles have the compass.
Yeah, they have the compass. They go.
So they go to this beach, which is off the coast of Hawaii. Very convenient.
Well, Hawaii has multiple islands too.
Right, but it's like I think it's like a separate island from the islands of Hawaii. But they use the compass to open the way to this temple out in the water.
They found a way.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sonic, who is upset with himself over Tails' injuries, runs on water to get to the temple by himself, where he goes to face Knuckles and Robotnik alone. So Knuckles and Robotnik are trying to get through this temple, which is full of traps, and Robotnik sends out a drone to map the area ahead of them, saying, work smarter, not harder. He does still have his giant mustache as well, despite the fact that whenever he got back to Earth, he got a new set of clothes. He did keep the bald head and giant mustache.
Papa's got a brand new stash.
Yeah, he does say that to Agent Stone whenever
Who works
they
at a
reunite.
coffee shop called the Mean Bean.
Another reference to Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. After punching through some walls, Knuckles and Robotnik get to the Chamber of the Emerald. But then, Robotnik is about to betray Knuckles. He's got like a taser in his glove or something. And he says this line, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out the logic or reasoning behind this line. But it's very funny. He's about to tase Knuckles in the back, essentially, and take the emerald for himself. And he says, now you're as useful to me as a backstage pass to Limp Bizkit. And it's like, yeah, man. I guess that wouldn't be useful to you. But then they hear some noise, and Sonic bursts through the ceiling, having gotten caught in several traps, I assume. But he made it there. Him and Knuckles do battle, but while that is happening, Robotnik goes up and gets the Master Emerald for himself, which Sonic was trying to explain to Knuckles, but Knuckles wouldn't listen to him. You look like you want to say something.
I kind of remember, it was like first Sonic has this like whole hero thing of like, I'm here to protect my friends, and Robotnik goes, I think I'm gonna throw up in my mouth. Mm-hmm.
So Robotnik gets the Master Emerald, and he absorbs it into himself, and the temple starts to flood, and Sonic can't swim, as has been established. So Knuckles, who Sonic saved previously. How did Sonic save Knuckles?
He helped lift Knuckles off that fallen rubble of the temple.
Right. So while the temple was flooding, Sonic saved Knuckles, but then Sonic can't swim, and so Knuckles saves Sonic because in his mind it is dishonorable to be saved by an enemy, so he's basically saving Sonic's life to get back at him, which is really funny. They end up on the shore, and Sonic throws a lump of sand at Knuckles to get him to listen.
And then Knuckles throws like a big pile of sand.
Yeah, and so they're talking to each other, and they're like sort of reconciling their differences. And then Tails pulls up in his biplane, the Tornado.
And Knuckles joins the team.
And we have the classic Sonic trio.
With a hand-crushing handshake. That's a running gag in this film.
Yeah, Knuckles consistently is shaking people's hands and like crushing their bones as he does. So, Sonic and Tails in the Tornado. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles all aboard the Tornado head towards Green Hill, which is where Robotnik went. The government has pursued Robotnik to this location because he is he is still a fugitive, despite the fact that he was working for them. He did do very
I also
big
love
crimes.
how the gun commander says, "We have cut your funding." I'm like,
Yeah, the government has cut Robotnik's funding.
He's like, "Not the funding."
Yeah,
like that's gonna mean anything to
It's
him.
very funny to me that Robotnik was a federal agent in the first movie. But Robotnik, using his new powers with the Master Emerald, disassembles a ton of machines and vehicles and builds himself the Death Egg robot, which I went nuts for whenever it was revealed in the trailer. The Death Egg robot is this giant mech suit that looks like Robotnik that he has in several of the games. And it's one of my favorite things in all of Sonic the Hedgehog media. And so I was so psyched whenever they revealed it was going to be in the movie. And so in the Death Egg robot, he sends out a ton of drones to attack Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, who are running through the streets fighting these drones. And Sonic is just like, oh, I get it now. Robotnik might be all-powerful right now, but he's obsessed with me. I'm inside his head, and so we just got to use that to our advantage.
Wait a minute, that's it. I'm the groin.
Yeah, Sonic is Robotnik's groin, his weak spot, essentially. And so they go, they form this plan. Sonic starts running away from Green Hill, and Robotnik starts following him. At this same time, Tails breaks into the Death Egg robot's control room head. Also, Agent Stone is there controlling the weapon systems.
And the manual is a Sega Genesis.
Yeah, he has a manual that is made to look like a classic Sega Genesis game case, which is really cool. I love that detail. He read the manual. Robotnik, meanwhile, is about to essentially take Tails out because Tails is using this little hologram generator to make it look like there's a ton of himself, but Robotnik narrows down which is the real one and hits him. And he's like, do you really think you would get me with that trick? And Tails is like, nope, I'm just the distraction. And Knuckles appears behind Robotnik. What does he say? What's the line?
He's like, I am also a hologram. He's like, dishonorable. This is how I roll. And then punches the Master Emerald out of Robotnik.
He punches Robotnik so hard that the Master Emerald comes out of him, which logically should have made the Death Egg robot combust, but Robotnik had a plan for that. So the Death Egg robot can function with manual controls. He does not have to control it with his mind.
I have to bring up real quick is that in this version of Sonic, they established that the Chaos Emeralds are inside the Master Emerald.
Yeah, the 7 Chaos Emeralds were formed into the Master Emerald by the ancient Echidna tribe. And that basically gives the Master Emerald all of its power, which is actually like the opposite situation of how it works in the games.
It's kind of like a neutralizing agent.
In the games, the Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds are two separate things, and the Master Emerald can like charge the Chaos Emeralds, I believe.
It can charge them or neutralize them depending on the user.
Yeah, but Knuckles is a protector of the Master Emerald in the games as well. But Sonic gets the Master Emerald, but it's all cracked and it breaks apart into the 7 Chaos Emeralds. And Maddie, and Tom are about to be crushed underfoot of the Death Egg robot when Sonic absorbs the 7 Chaos Emeralds and becomes Super Sonic, which I'm glad that it didn't happen in the previous movie, but it happens in this movie, which is also kind of a reference. Because in the Sonic games, in the first game, you can get all the Chaos Emeralds, but you can't become Super Sonic because Super Sonic wouldn't be introduced until the second game. So Sonic becomes Super Sonic and destroys the Death Egg robot. Robotnik is like, why don't we just let bygones be bygones? There are good people on both sides.
And he's about to punch Sonic, but then Sonic
he throws his giant robot fist, but Sonic just stops it with his hand
and blows up the fist too.
He blows up both of Robotnik's robot fists, and then does the thing where he plows through the body multiple times in multiple different areas, and then he just taps it with his toe.
Kind of like how he taps
falls over.
Kind of like how he taps that robot in the opening cutscene of Sonic 06.
Exactly.
And then Robotnik's like, "Oh, it's like that? Okay, fine. We're not friends."
And then
later, hater.
Yeah, the robot falls over, and Robotnik is presumably dead. Agent Stone is alive. We find that out later because he's disguised himself as a gun agent to basically take revenge on Sonic himself, I guess. But as far as we know, Robotnik is dead. So that happens. Sonic uses his powers as Super Sonic to create a chili dog, and then releases the Chaos Emeralds, which Knuckles compresses back into the Master Emerald, and then they all live together. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles now all live with Tom and Maddie.
But wait,
and they live
that is
happily
not
ever
the
after.
end.
But there's more. It's a Billy Mays moment because they are talking. The gun agents are talking about this old Black Ops project that they found, codenamed Project Shadow. And we see a shot of Shadow the Hedgehog in a vat of some sort in suspended animation, and that's the third movie. Like we don't know what's going to happen yet. There hasn't been a trailer,
which is
released.
why I'm guessing they're going to reference the Eggman pissing on the moon
because that's
meme.
Sonic Adventure 2, which was Shadow's first game.
Right.
So honestly, between these two movies, tell me this: between Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2, which one do you like more?
I like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 because it tries to do more with the games.
I also like Sonic. Like Sonic the Hedgehog is my favorite movie of all time, but in terms of like adapting the Sonic games as a film, I prefer Sonic 2 because it's got more of the characters, it's got more of the stuff. Eggman is more true to his character. He's got the giant robot. It's very fun.
One thing I do like about this movie is that it also leaves enough for more movies or spin-off shows to come into play. Like, it's not like, oh, like the first movie we had Sonic and stuff, but then like second movie we have everything else from across the games. It's not like, say, Batman v Superman, where it's like, oh yeah, we have Batman and Superman, but we also have Wonder Woman and the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman and Doomsday and the death of Superman and all that stuff. Like, I like how it adds a lot, but it also like keeps a lot out.
There's still a lot of like major characters from the Sonic franchise that haven't been seen in the movies yet, like Amy Rose or Rouge the Bat,
or the Chaotix,
Silver the Hedgehog, Blaze the Cat,
Cream and her family.
Yeah, there's still like a lot of characters
Princess
that
Elise,
they could
if you
introduce.
care about her.
I don't. But yeah, like I do have some problems. I have some complaints that I would like to address. I hate Tails in these movies. Tails is horrifically mischaracterized in this film, because he doesn't really have a personality of his own. Like he's got two traits. He's smart and he loves Sonic. And that's it. Like, they didn't really make Tails much of a character. Meanwhile, Knuckles is like
Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, but he is also his own character. He's also the last of his kind, like Sonic is the last of his. Knuckles is the last Echidna warrior sworn to protect the Master Emerald. Sonic, like, also lost all of his family too, and so they have like that thing that they can connect on. And meanwhile, Tails is just like, yeah, I'm a huge fan, man, and it's just like he's useful, and I do love Tails. Like, I love the character Tails, but I just don't like how they adapted him in this movie.
I will say, I do like how he's voiced by the same actor who voices him in the games.
Yeah, but I feel like that was more of like last minute they decided to add Tails in the end of Sonic, the first movie, and they were like, oh god, we need a voice for this. Okay, get the one who already voices the character, because no other character is played or voiced by their typical voice actor from any of the games or shows or anything. So I feel like, as I love Colleen O'Shaughnessy, and she is the perfect she's the perfect voice actor to voice Tails, but at the same time, I feel like they only had her voicing Tails because they needed to get a voice actor for Tails on very short notice. You know what I mean?
It could have. I mean, I'd rather have a voice actor from the games than, say, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson once again voicing a character, or Chris Pratt is voicing Garfield and Mario.
Yeah, like obviously, like, she is the best choice, but that's just how I feel about the casting decision. And there are rumors that like Shadow in the third movie is going to be voiced by Hayden Christensen, who was Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequels. And honestly, I really hope so, because I think that'd be really, really good, actually.
One of the rumors was that it was going to be Keanu Reeves playing Shadow, which would have kind of made sense if considering the fact that there was a Keanu Reeves movie, Speed, in the first movie. Like, that would have been a weird callback.
As I love Keanu Reeves as much as the next guy, but in terms of like performance, he's not the best. Like, he's a great like physical actor. Like, his work in the John Wick movies is great. His work in The Matrix and Point Break, another one that I really like. He's like great in all of those, but he's just not a very convincing actor. Like, there's a reason why most of the characters he plays I forgot his best role, Theodore Logan in Bill and Ted, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. With the exception of that role, there's a reason why most characters he plays are like stoic, like not a lot of emotions kind of characters. And it's because it's the only character he can really play because he's not that good of an actor, which might be good for Shadow. I would just prefer to see somebody who can deliver more of a performance than Keanu Reeves, like I know Hayden Christensen can. Because Shadow as a character is has a very emotional story.
Although let's face it, if that is true that Hayden Christensen is going to play Shadow, get ready for the killing younglings meme to pop out because they're
or the I don't like sand. Right. They're probably going to do like if Hayden Christensen voices Shadow, he's probably going to say I don't like sand.
Or they might have him do the where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald from Shadow the Hedgehog.
Maybe. I can't really see the Chaos Emeralds making another appearance, but maybe. But
I mean, I would assume they would, because based off like the pre-production stuff we've heard about, like for example, like I think they casted a young actress to play Maria. So it's possible they might actually adapt Sonic Adventure 2 for the third movie.
Right. So, it would just like I feel like it would be like they would have to make a retroactive decision to undo some like Knuckles putting the Chaos Emeralds back together into the Master Emerald is the thing. Like, they would have to create another situation in which the Master Emerald breaks, and I don't think that they would be able to really do that in an organic way. There's probably some kind of method, like maybe like they need to split the Chaos Emeralds up to use them each for different purposes. Like maybe it's going to be like a la Sonic Unleashed, where you had to recharge the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and by extension, they powered up these like different pieces of a massive colossus at the end of the game. Maybe it's going to be something like that where they have to spread the power out across the world, but I just don't really see them doing it again. I can also
see like the situation being like, oh, Robotnik somehow comes back, like somehow Robotnik return. He gets the Master Emerald like to power up the space colony Ark, but like it's not as powerful as when he had the Death Egg robot because like the 7 Chaos Emeralds aren't in that anymore.
I really hope they have Gerald Robotnik. Robotnik's grandfather, canon named Gerald Robotnik, looks exactly like Robotnik, but with a white mustache to show his age. No, I just don't really see. I just don't really see them, since they used like the 7 Chaos Emeralds to do the supersonic finale in this movie. I don't see them doing something similar in the third movie.
You also forget Super Shadow is also a thing too.
I know that, but it's just like it would be the same finale twice. It's just we get the 7 Chaos Emeralds, we win. Which I know that's how the game ends, but that's a much more effective plot device for a video game than it is for a series, for like a film. Because in a video game, it's like Mario getting a mushroom. It's a power-up. That's all the Chaos Emeralds are in the video games. It's a power-up so that you can beat the final boss. But in a movie, it would be literally using the same plot device a second time. It would be like if they made King Kong and then made a sequel to King Kong where the exact same Empire State Building scene happens, but like maybe with a different skyscraper. Like, yeah, it's different, kind of, but it's the same thing. You know what I mean?
Well, who's to say?
I'm not to say, but the movie is coming out in December of this year.
We are not being paid to do this.
I wouldn't need to be paid to advertise for this film. I will never advertise for anything Paramount, but I will advertise for this.
One complaint I do want to make.
Yes, please.
I don't like the lack of Sonic music, or at the very least, the Sonic music we do have. I don't like how it kind of repeats. Like,
yeah, the only theme that they really use is the Green Hill Zone theme very briefly at the end of the first movie.
And,
I believe.
And the thing is, like from what I understand online, is that even if a Sonic game is bad, like everyone agrees that the music can at least be good. Like,
oh yeah, there's across like the entirety of Sonic's history, like every game from 1991 until now, the music has consistently been amazing, and like the scores in these movies are pretty good.
and I'm only saying this.
I believe they're scored by Junkie XL, who did like Justice League and some of the Godzilla movies recently. But you know, I agree. I wish that they would do that. And of course,
maybe it could be a case of like, oh, we don't know how to put video game soundtracks into feature film scores. And then the Super Mario Brothers movie came out and just said, oh, you want to say that again, huh? Well, like, here comes Brian Tyler coming in with the Mario music from like all across his 30-year history.
Sonic movie is still better than the Mario movie.
Right, but like you get the idea. Like it's like you could add like there's so much music, and I
wish, like, one thing that I wish, like a track that I wish they would have included either for the first movie or the second movie is like during like the final fight having the boss music from the games, like having the boss music from Sonic the Hedgehog, like the first Sonic game, as like when Robotnik's coming through the portal into Green Hill. Having like the boss music from the first game as like a musical motif would have been really cool, or having the boss music from the second game, like during the final, like an orchestral version of the boss music from the second game during the final fight in the movie, or just anything really would have been cool. But
yeah, I think recently
I still love these movies.
I think the lead singer for the band Crush 40, who wrote a lot of Sonic songs, confirmed that Live and Learn's going to be in the third film. That's
Live and Learn, Crush 40, God. Best butt rock band of all time. they make like Crush. If you want to know like the vibe of Sonic the Hedgehog, like, if you're new to the series, just go listen to a Crush 40 song, and that is the vibe of every single Sonic the Hedgehog game. It is just Crush 40 being like funny and ridiculous. It's great. These movies are great. I love them. I'm very biased towards them. I'm going to be unbiased in my rating for them, but I am still very biased towards them.
I mean, especially like in more recent years, like I feel like a lot of video game movies have, like, at least either they're not.
Yeah, well, like at the time, before this movie came out, like there was still that like perception that like nobody can do a video game movie right. Like there was still that idea around, and the first Sonic movie kind of like smashed that idea to pieces, like, because even though it wasn't a perfect adaptation of like any particular game,
it kept the spirit intact.
Well, yeah, it's an incredible adaptation of the characters and like the wider concepts, rather than trying to adapt a specific game into a film.
It's its own thing,
and I think that's why it was so successful. And then like the same with the Mario movie, or this is a bad movie, so it's like a bad example, but the recent Mortal Kombat movie, it's not good, but it kind of rules.
It's R-rated. That's one thing.
Rated R, and it's over the top and ridiculous, and that's what Mortal Kombat is.
Or even just like on television, like The Last of Us, I heard was pretty good.
The Last of Us adaptation, which has broken several records.
I heard Halo wasn't good, though I haven't seen it yet.
I'm not a Halo guy. That's our elder brother.
But
he's the Halo guy.
Yeah, but we also are getting like series based off Fallout and God of War.
Yeah, and the Fallout series looks like it's gonna be great. Like I'll watch it. I'm not the biggest Fallout fan, but it looks good. And it kind of like this like renaissance of video game movies and media. And other forms of media, like these different adaptations, kind of started with this movie.
And even like if you want to make an argument, Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
No, I don't.
Okay. But like I think
Sonic does everything Detective Pikachu did, but way better because the characters don't look gross.
I think a big reason for this is like say back when the Bob Hoskins Mario movie came out. I think that was like no one who played the games worked on that movie. Whereas now,
but it's great in its own way,
right? But like now you got people.
Rest in peace, Bob Hoskins.
You got people who are grown up who have played a lot Sonic games, Mario games.
Sega in particular, like this movie. is a labor of love by people who clearly have a lot, like these two movies, the people working on them clearly have a lot of love for the series. Like the art direction for the character designs was done by that guy, Tyson Hess,
Yeah.
who worked on, I'm pretty sure he worked on the Sonic Mania animations and has been a huge Sonic fan for years. He was huge in the like fan community before it even came out. And then like Sega is like the best at working with their fans and stuff. Like they like see that fans are making cool stuff and instead of like copyright striking those fans or like seizing their material, they hire those fans to work for them.
Yeah, unlike some other video game companies we happen to know.
Nintendo.
I was thinking Square Enix, but you go ahead.
No, it's Nintendo. Like Sega does what Nintendo don't, and it's so true. That was a real marketing slogan, and it still is true. Because Nintendo, if you dare to upload a video of you playing a Nintendo game, you better be prepared to not make any money off of that content, because Nintendo will be all over you. Or God forbid you're running an emulator on one of Nintendo's games that they haven't sold in the past 20 years, rather than playing it on an original copy. But Sega, they're just like, oh, you made this like really good fan game that people love? Here, join Sonic Team and make our next game. Like make our next official game. And that's like the Sonic series has so much love both on the side of Sega and on the fan side, because despite like the ups and downs of the series, I still love Sonic.
Yeah, and you can even tell that love was there when the whole ugly Sonic debacle happened. Like just the fact that they decided, okay, we hear the complaints, we're going to go back and fix this design, whereas other movie studios were like, oh, well, tough shit.
Exactly. Like, how many studios can you picture, like, delaying a project and wasting potentially millions of dollars to redo something, like, to redo essentially the whole movie at that point? How many other film studios would do that? None. Like, especially with like video game movies, they'll just be like, oh, get over it and release the movie anyway. But they set like a real precedent with saying like, okay, we're going to listen to you guys. And like the fans weren't complaining they were complaining both out of hate for the design, but they wouldn't be complaining if they didn't love Sonic. Like I wouldn't be doing this right now like if I didn't love Sonic, because like this movie was like my gateway into just becoming like a movie guy in general. Like my ridiculous bit with counting down to this movie was the reason why this podcast exists today, essentially. And it's all thanks to Sonic. So everybody say you're welcome to Sonic.
Thank you, Sonic.
Or yeah, say thank you to Sonic. And yeah, with that, I think I've yapped enough about this movie. So I think we're ready to give this a little rating. So here on Is It Better Than Paddington 2, we have a scale that we rate all of our movies against. It is the average rating of Paddington 2 across several different rating systems and platforms, which is 4 out of 5 stars. So combined between Sonic 1 and 2, you can like do the math in your head and average out your rating if you want, but Sonic 1 and 2, what would you rate out of 5 stars?
But
rate them together, like as one
together
thing.
As one thing, I would say a 4 out of 5.
And elaborate on that.
Like the first movie, I feel could have been a lot better, especially as a video game movie. But I think like that slack got picked up by the second movie, so that's kind of the whole reasoning. Like I feel like it's something that's evolving and improving over time, and I feel like the third movie might be a lot better than the second film, but we'll have to wait and see.
I'm very excited. I'm gonna be off character. I'm gonna drop the bit for the first time in my life, and I'm going to give both of these movies collectively 3 out of 5 stars. Because let me explain myself. These are still my favorite movies of all time, and if anybody says they're bad, I will punch them in the face. But they are bad. They are like very clearly like most of the budget for these films clearly went to the visuals and not the writing, because like the jokes don't land that much. Like Sonic flosses, Robotnik flosses, very ridiculous.
Is Shadow gonna floss in the third movie?
I hope so. And like the plots the plots of these both are like very like basic and bare bones and what you would expect
It's
from
all about family,
a movie
Tom.
like this. Yeah, literally. It's like Sonic gets saved in the first movie by the power of friendship, and like for some reason can't run to San Francisco because I guess he can't read a road sign, even though he has been shown to be able to read previously in the movie.
He's also been able, in the second movie, he's established he can go to Seattle, Washington.
Oh yeah, and the second movie is better. It's a lot better. It fixes a lot of problems that I have with it. But then there's the things like Uptown Funk being a 7-year-old song that is no longer popular, being like having the dance battle sequence, which like you could take out the whole dance battle and the movie would be the same, if not better. And like the mischaracterization of Tails and everything. So as a Sonic fan, like my personal rating, if you want to ask me, 5 stars. No hesitation. Both films are 5 stars. But it's not about what I think on this show. It's about what's true. And what is true is that I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 stars.
All right.
So that brings our average rating to about 3.5 out of 5, which makes the Sonic movies, depending on how you round it, a little bit worse or just as good as Paddington 2. And that's something I think I would agree with. What are your thoughts on this development?
But at the same time, it's also the case of like these are 2 different adaptations. Like you got something adapting a video game series versus adapting a book series, and like books are probably easier to adapt because like you already have a story. You just gotta like fix it up to work as a film script. Versus like with a video game, like there's just so many games and like each one has their different story. There's not really, sometimes they don't even have collective lore. Sometimes like Mario is just save the princess from the dinosaur, and that's about it. Like there's probably not enough you could get out of a movie, but then both Mario movie and Sonic movies managed to get some pretty good films out of that.
Yeah, I agree. I have a confession. I saw Paddington 2 in theaters when it came out in 2018, and I haven't seen it since. I have no idea if anything that I'm saying on this show is true. I mean, I know that I think that these movies are definitely better than Paddington 2, but, that's not what it's about. It's about what other people think of Paddington 2. That's why it's not based on my own rating. It's based on other people's ratings, so that way people can't get mad at me for being wrong. But
brought this upon yourselves.
It's my show. If you have a problem with that, leave it in the comments below, and I won't read them.
It's the final season where we don't care.
I haven't cared since episode 1. But
it's like that Brian David Gilbert thing. It's like I have a confession to make. I've never played a Sonic game.
Yeah, I have a confession to make. I've only seen Paddington 2 once, but by now you are too invested in what I think of these movies. Blake, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you. I'm heading down into the dark pits of the underworld where I reside from
until you're on Cult Media. Until you're on Cult of Media again.
Yeah.
Dad, would you like to say anything? Our dad has been sitting here listening to us this whole time. Do you have anything you want to say to the folks back home?
Excellent podcast.
He says excellent podcast. Was that caught? Cool. All right. So that's gonna wrap up this episode of Is It Better Than Paddington 2? Join us this Saturday, April 13th, at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, where we will be doing yet another live episode of Is It Better Than Paddington 2? It'll be our last live before Streamathon at the end of this month, April 27th. So this is your last chance to get into chat on Twitch and tell me that I'm wrong. I'm not, but, you can still do that.
I mean, we value your opinions, but also you're wrong.
I do read chat. That is the thing. If you want to tell me my opinions are bad, you have to put it in Twitch chat while I am live. That is the only way I'm going to read it. So you better tune in to Is It Better Than Paddington 2 live this Saturday, April 13th at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on twitch.tv/thecultofmedia. Tell me my opinions are bad. And boost our algorithm a little bit.
And as for what movie we're covering, well, that's for us to know and for you to find out.
Exactly. Or movies in this case. But yeah, just remember that if we're kind and polite, the world will be right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.